Hello, everyone. Our today's guest is Jac O'Keeffe. You can find their socials on the episode description. Jac, thank you so much for joining me. I was looking forward to explore the Association for Spiritual Integrity and spiritual leadership. Um, First of all, when I was preparing this podcast, I checked almost all the info about you, and there was actually this overview on Google Books that I'm gonna quote. Jac O'Keeffe experienced a spontaneous awakening in 1997. This gave her access to powerful, intuitive, and healing capacities and influenced her change in career from pioneering community arts policy at the national level in Ireland to opening a healing practice. First of all, tell me about this awakening experience that you had.
Okay, we're going back almost 30 years now. So just to give a context for people. Hello, everyone. Um, I was living in Ireland. I was married and I was an arts consultant. And I had studied theology as a primary degree.
Yeah.
And I came out of that being an atheist because in Ireland at the time, a theology degree was about Catholicism, and I didn't know that when I went in. I didn't know that. I thought I'd be studying kind of like the philosophy of religions and different traditions, and I because we were forced into the Catholic lens of perception, I understood that this is about control. This is about people telling me what to believe. It doesn't encourage me in my own inner exploration at all. And so I became an atheist. So I went, well then, what is there? If this is supposed to be like the one true church, of course, every religion thinks they're the only one or the clearest one. I just saw that, well, this is telling me what to believe in, and I think that has to come from the inside, from what I know to be true.
Yeah.
And so from the inside, I felt there's nothing beyond this body. There's nothing. And so even though I had little insights and knowing as children, and I think we all come in with that, with some awareness as a child that, you know, there's more, and the adults are a little bit crazy, and it's very simple. And why don't we play more? This is a place to play, and that's very true. But then we have to develop an ego and get rid of the ego in order to discover that that's true again. So at party, I was in a house with some friends of mine, and all of a sudden we were having lunch, and I lifted my head, and all of a sudden I saw dead people, like ghosts, like grotesque ghosts hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I thought somebody had given me LSD because that was pretty popular in those days. And my friend said, no, we wouldn't give you something without telling you. No, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm looking at dead people. And they're like, yeah, but you're an atheist. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. All I know is there's dead people who are sort of alive hanging off the ceiling. And I was so full of fear, Salvador, like completely full of fear. No matter what I did, I couldn't get rid of them in front of me. I would change rooms. I went outside. I went for a walk. And I couldn't, they were just everywhere. I mean, it's a very long story what happened that night. Those spooks ended up pushing me around the place. It was pretty awful. It was like a horror movie, really. It was like a horror movie. And I remember thinking, okay, these are dead. So there's something beyond when I'm dead. And even if I kill myself to make this stop now, because I was pretty desperate, if I kill myself to make this stop now, I probably will end up where they are. They're not happy. Okay, that option I can't do, but I have to reconsider that there is something after we die. So I left that place because I was with some friends in a friend's house. And a week later, I heard a noise in my own sitting room in the middle of the night. And I thought, oh, the cat has gotten in again. I went up to the living room where the noise came from, and there was another dead woman hanging there. And she spoke to me. And she said, you need to help me. I'm like, I don't know you. Get out of my house. I don't know you. Please leave. You're dead. This is for the living. Go. She
Yeah.
said, I can't go. I can't go. I'm stuck. And I said, I don't know how to help you. You're already dead. And she said, the compassion and the love that you give to your friends when they are in trouble, when they're upset, I need you to give that to me. And I'm like, I don't know you. That kind of connection happens when you know somebody. And she said, I know you can give it to me, and that's what I need to move on. I said, move on to where? And she said, yeah, I'm not fully out of my human life, and I haven't moved on to where I need to be in order to progress. I'm stuck between, and I need love and compassion. And at that moment, this golden light came bolting out of my ceiling, straight down in front of me, between me and her. And my hands went to the light, and I was able to move the light, and I picked it up like you would a fireman's hose. And I pointed it towards her, and my heart melted, because then I was looking at her without fear. I had, this golden light in front of me, and there was so much love, so much compassion, willing her to let go, making it safe for her to let go. I was kind of building a container. And after a while, her face softened, the pain left, and she said, I can go now, thank you. And she left. I opened my window, and out she went, and she left. And when I went back to my bedroom, I was shaking. I mean, I was completely, oh my God, what's going on? I thought that was just a haunted house I was in at my friend's house. What's going on here? I am like being invaded by people who are dead. I don't seem to have any boundaries. She's just told me there's a way I can help her, but that's not what I want to do. I want to work with the living, not with the dead. And as I was lying down in bed trying to process this, a man appeared at the end of the bed, and he was full of light. And I was like, oh no, not another one. Go away, go away. This is too much. Go away, go away. And he said, I'm here to answer every question you have, every question you have. So I started off saying, well, give me the lottery numbers. And he said, that's not going to help you. Give me another question. I thought, okay, does God exist? He said, yes, but not in the way that you believe or you think that other people, that the stories you've been told, no, that's not God. I went, okay, I can buy that. I said, but will I know about how God is real? And he said, oh, yes, you will. So I said, well, why are these spooks appearing? And I spoke to him for a long time, and he gave me every single answer, except the lottery numbers. He gave me every answer that I asked for. And so, yeah. And so he told me that my life would change. He told me to finish off the contracts that I had as an arts consultant, not to take on any more, that I would start moving spirits from houses and from people. And that after a year and a half, that would change again, but it would be deeper into spirituality, and that I would be guided along the way. And one experience that he gave me was after I asked, well, why should I do this? Like, don't I have a choice here? And he said, this is why. And I got this bolt of love that was unlike anything I had ever experienced. And I mean, I had done a lot of drugs, but this was off the charts. And I went, oh my God. So what was that? And he said, that's love. He said, that's a teaspoon. And there's an ocean of it there, an ocean. And this is a teaspoon, because that's all you can take right now. And I went, okay, in the morning, I'm going to think that I dreamt this. So give it to me again. And he said, sure. And I was really aware for the experience this time. And I went, okay, this is otherworldly. This is worth experiencing. This is something else altogether. I'll do it, because I want to find out about this type of love. And so, yeah. And so that, those three rapid fire incidences, or one weekend and the following weekend, they changed my life. And from then, I began to get interested in spirituality. Well, what is it? How do I find skills to move spirits on? Can I trust that this golden light is going to come down from the ceiling all the time? How can I love people that I don't even know? How can I have compassion and empathy for stories and pain that I don't hear? How can I be more loving and open myself so that I can take an ocean or even a bucket, not a teaspoon of love? How could I, what do I need to do here? How can I grow? And so that began my journey. I was 30 and I'm now 58. So
Wow.
it's been all about spirituality since then, all about spirituality. I lived in India for a few years, 4.5 years. I lived in Spain for a little while. I never wanted to become a teacher because I felt like, well, there's nothing to teach. There's nothing. Like, it's silence, it's emptiness. There's nothing, and there's complete peace and silence in the nothingness. But a friend of mine who owned a yoga shala in Dublin, Ireland, phoned me and he said, I see you teaching here. I said, I'll show up. I'll sit there for 2 hours or whatever you want me to do, but there's nothing to teach. And of course, the moment that I sat there, what we call truth started to come out. That we are not our bodies, we are not our minds, that we don't have much power really over our thoughts, but what we can do is pull back and observe our thoughts and not take them so seriously. And we have to heal our nervous systems and relax our nervous system because we are quite automated and programmed from our conditioning, our rearing, our cultures, our trauma. We're conditioned by every experience we have every day. And so I began to practice this and I began to teach this. I had spent a few years working as a healer. I worked on dead people in the beginning for 1.5 years. And then a friend of mine said, Jac, if you ever do on living people what you do on dead people, I'd love to be a guinea pig. Let me be an experiment. And I went, oh God, here it is. Here's the change. That's what's going to happen. That's what that guy was talking about. And so I asked him to, okay, I'm going to put you on a mattress on my living room floor and let's see what happens. And he fell asleep and I saw his chakra system. I saw past lives. I saw his energy field. I saw his traumas. I was like, oh my God, there's a whole map in front of me of his soul's journey, not just his life or what's happening right now, but his soul's journey.
Yeah.
So I asked the divine, show me what to do. And this team of supporters came in and said, move this energy this way, move this out of his energy field. This is how you heal past lives. And I got a training there and then. So I refined it as the years went on. I did a lot of work with people with psychosis because I had an ability to go into another dimension where people who were out of their mind, they were someplace else. And usually I could find them. I could find them in another dimension and have a conversation with them, understand why it's so scary to be in their body and encourage them back into their body.
Wow.
And I think that's some place where spirituality can really help the psychiatric world. But we're not ready for that yet. It's I suppose there's too much avoidance and denial and woo-woo and stuff that's not healthy and wholesome and wise mixed up in New Age spirituality, And if we're able to like extrapolate, pull apart skills that are specifically about going to other dimensions, specifically about telepathic communication, and move it away from extraneous fluff, if we can just have those skills cleanly refined, there's a huge role for healers to play in the psychiatric world. There'd be wonderful opportunities. And I suppose now, the telepathy tapes is an investigation now around looking at, maybe some of your listeners have watched the telepathy tapes or listen to it. But those skills of going to other dimensions that people on the spectrum have. But it's why I enjoy that is like, we're willing and we want to see that people on the spectrum have those skills. But a load of us have those skills, but we can't separate it from from fluff. You see?
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll accept it from people with autism, but we won't generally accept it from healers because so many of us healers are avoiding our own pain, and we become healers to avoid our own pain. You know, the wounded healer is an archetype. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've a lot of evolving to do there, you know?
Yeah, an incredible path, certainly. And yeah, that's an amazing story that you first began by telling. Yeah, I'm curious to know if you kind of lost your fear of dying.
Oh yeah, I don't have really fears about anything, to be honest. I mean, I get queasy when I'm up on a very high building, but I'm not afraid, you know? I'm not afraid.
Oh,
I think there's a curiosity that's always there if there's fear. There's a curiosity.
yeah,
You know, I'm like,
indeed.
oh, what will the experience of death be like? I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's kind of weird to hear myself say that, but I'm looking forward to it. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that'll be really fun to leave this dimension permanently, you know, to
yeah.
leave this body behind and to go on. But I know those dimensions very well, you know. I suppose, you know, sometimes at night, actually most nights, I have to say, most nights I go to other dimensions and I work on people I know, on people I don't know. I work as a healer when I'm asleep. My body's asleep, but I know I'm in another dimension. Like,
Yeah.
it's very different to know that I'm in another dimension or I'm dreaming. I mean, there's a huge qualitative difference. And so, like, those other dimensions don't need my physical body. I will still do that work when my body is dead. I will
Okay,
still,
but
yeah.
but so yeah, you do believe in the afterlife, but not more in a spiritual way, right? Not physical.
I think, yeah, the physical body dies, but I'm not my body. So only the
Mm,
body dies. It's kind of like having your hair cut. You know, it's like, yeah, you can in the barber shop or the hairdresser, you can look at your hair on the floor and say that was part of my body. And I have no connection to it now. It's dead. It's been cut off my head. I have no connection to it. It's like that.
okay.
It's like
Yeah.
that. It's like I'm very aware of the parts of me and how I function. Well, some parts of me, maybe not all parts of me. I don't know. I'm always learning and growing, I hope. I'm aware of how I exist without my physical body.
Mm,
And so
okay.
if my physical body dies, I, I I'm there. Is there an afterlife? Hell and heaven? No, no, that's no. No, there's none of that. I know
Yeah.
that. I my own system has shown me that. Um, you know, in a way, if you look at the ecosystem, Salvador, like if we look at, you know, everything recycles. What is, you know, a seed now in 50 years' time will be a tree, and then it will break down and it will rot back to the earth, or we'll cut it up and make furniture. But there will be
Mm,
sawdust on the ground and it will fertilize the earth, and a new seed will fall on it and it will begin again. And this cycle of energy applies to us also. Our body will rot or be burned, and our consciousness, our consciousness is what continues. Us as consciousness, as a capacity to be conscious, as a capacity to be consciousness itself.
mm,
Like we are
okay.
consciousness itself. But when we're in our body, we feel like I am conscious, you know, and when I'm asleep, I'm not conscious. Or give me a general anesthetic and I'm not conscious. But
Mm,
that's our brain registering awareness and consciousness. But we are consciousness itself. And that can't go anywhere. That's always being recycled.
okay. Yeah,
You
amazing.
see?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so let's start talking about the spiritual association for our spiritual integrity.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, first of all, what is this association and what's your role?
Yeah. So I was teaching internationally for several years. And in 2017, I was at a conference presenting questions, really. Sometimes I ask questions and I'm like, there's no answer to this. Let's sit in the question and see what emerges. And I like to do that rather than having my brain come up with answers. But my brain is very limited. So, so I was presenting the case of why is it that spiritual teachers can behave badly? Why don't we walk our talk more? Why don't we live what we know in every moment of the day? And how come we can misuse power, abuse people, sleep with students? Why be horrible to people? Like, why does this happen? And so I was, I suppose, asking that there be more integrity among teachers. And the other thing I noticed is that many spiritual teachers don't have friends who are not their students. And I noticed that for a while with myself, that I ended up talking about spirituality with all my friends. And I'm like, why can't I talk about other stuff? I don't know, TV shows, politics, anything, climate change, anything. But like, why does it always go back to spirituality? And some years later, when I was more embodied and my own, I suppose, recognition of nothingness and the void from which everything comes, my own recognition of that place, as that got integrated in my body, I became more aware of my human needs. I'm like, oh God, why don't we talk about managing our human needs? That's what's going on. That's probably the primary reason why spiritual leaders go a bit funny, go a little bit off the charts. And as a spiritual teacher, you can justify everything. You can say, oh, it's the play of the divine. Oh, it was God talking through me. It wasn't me. And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because we are in a human form and we need to take responsibility for our human needs. And our human needs include self-care, proper rest, downtime from teaching, fun, joy, roles where we are not the teacher, where we can be a son, a daughter, a parent, and not a teacher, where we can have friends, where we can communicate about things of the world and not hijack the conversation to where we live inside ourselves. But we need to be able to straddle the densest part of the world right through to the finest, highest vibration. And that's about embodiment, integration, and taking responsibility for our humanness. And so at that conference, there were two other people speaking about something similar. And I went up to the other two and I said, we need to have lunch. Can we have lunch tomorrow and talk about why the three of us are talking about something similar, asking questions about teachers behaving badly? And from that conversation, we decided to set up an organization, which is now the Association for Spiritual Integrity. And we and we spent for the first 2 years drawing up a code of ethics, guidelines for spiritual leaders to follow. And interestingly enough, like, we have over 800 spiritual leaders who have joined the organization. We don't advertise, we're not on social media. Like, people find out about us and go, I want to do better. I need support as a spiritual teacher. This is a good thing. I want to pull away. It's like the ones who are aware of their body, mind, and their humanness want to pull away from those who are hiding behind God. And so we want to support people who want to continue growing in their humanness. Like, the spiritual part, that's clear, that's clean. We're we happen to share the profession, but how do we manage our humanness? That's the question. And so the first thing we did was write up a code of ethics that would work for Advaita Vedanta teachers and Buddhist ministers and Unity Church people and Catholic priests and rabbis and pagans. All of it. Can we agree a do no harm policy. And we came up with 26 tenets for the code of ethics. And so people sign up to the code of ethics. But you know, the interesting thing, Salvador, is that teachers sign up to the code of ethics. Yes, I will receive feedback from students. Yes, I will be transparent about all things. Yes, I will be honest about my own human needs. Yes, I will refer to other people if I don't have the answer to some students' questions. And and many of them don't seem to have the self-awareness that they might have to change their behavior. Like we imagine that we're doing these things and we're being very ethical, but we don't see ourselves because we have a shadow, you know, we have aspects of our own humanness that we're not aware of. And there's a lot of denial going on, denial of our human needs, and teachers imagining that, no, my students can, of course, they're free to give me feedback. But actually the students, when I talk to them, they feel intimidated and they're like, give my teacher feedback? Never. They'll tell me it's my ego. So that's actually what happens. You know, because the teachers don't have enough self-awareness. None of us have as human beings. I'm a teacher too, you know. None of us have enough self-awareness where we can see where we are, where we have yet to grow in our own humanness. So this organization is to help spiritual leaders and teachers to grow, to be more aware, to have colleagues and peers where we drop the role of being a teacher and where we can be colleagues and drop the need to teach, drop the need to guide others and be vulnerable, be human, be open, be transparent. And that is really scary for most spiritual leaders in my experience.
Okay.
In my
So
experience.
do you think this thing of having an enlightened master has outlived its usefulness in contemporary spirituality? And yeah, do you think we don't need like enlightened masters to really get to our enlightenment path?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I think we do need a teacher, but surrender to your own inner divinity instead of surrendering to the teacher. Surrender to the teachings and not the teacher. The teacher is human, and so they will make mistakes. They will be out of integrity. They will always have growth to do in their humanness, even if they have, gone to a super guru phase, if they're a sat guru. Even if they're at that level, their humanness will always need evolution, always. And so I would encourage people to, find a teacher, but know that they are human and that they are not perfect. Listen to the teachings, but watch their actions. Their actions might not be pure. How they treat people might not always be clear. If they're not attending to their own self-care, they will make mistakes. They will make mistakes.
Okay.
And to allow them to be human, allow them to make mistakes.
Okay. And what ethical responsibilities do you think most spiritual teachers have, or should have at least?
Yeah. I think self-care is the most important thing for spiritual teachers, because if they are taking care of their own human needs, they won't project them onto their students. If they're denying their own personal needs, they will project them onto their students. They will. If they're not sleeping well, if they're not taking care of their health, if they're not taking care of their own personal growth, And by that, I mean, like, go to a therapist when something comes up. If you have a clash with a student, talk to a peer and find out, okay, is it the student or myself? Or maybe, most likely, it's both of us that need to heal something here. What's my part in this? Can I take off the position of being a spiritual leader and be normal, wear normal clothes and do normal things and drop the role? Can I be purely human and invisible? Can I be anonymous and invisible? How does that feel? You know? Yeah, things
No.
like this, yeah, are very important because, like, we know from studies, and Harvard have done a lot of really good research on the neuroscience, what happens in our brain when we become leaders. And I've learned a lot from that because our ability to be aware of other people's experience decreases. We make assumptions about other people's experience because this change happens in our brain when we are a leader for a long time. We make assumptions about other people's experience, and we lose the ability to really hear and feel and empathize into somebody else's experience. That
Okay.
can be very harmful. That can be, because we can deny that a student has an experience, you know?
And yeah, what kind of patterns have you noticed about how spiritual leaders justify or rationalize harm?
Yeah. You can say, as a spiritual leader, you can say every single thing that a student says is their ego.
Oh,
And it's not true. It's not true at all. Like, a teacher has an ego, but they're not identifying with it because
yeah.
they know they're not their ego. However, that their ego is like a pair of sunglasses. It changes the color of how they see. It changes their own perspective. Even if they're not identified with it, it's like a pair of glasses that they have on. They could take it off, but but while the sunglasses are on, they're not seeing things as they really are. And nobody right now, no students want to say, hey, you've got a pair of glasses on, you're not seeing clearly. Students don't have the power to do that, and they need to have their own personal power. They need to hold on to their own personal power, you know?
Okay.
And what's happening is that very often we're misinterpreting surrender to be a handing over of our personal power. And that's not what spiritual surrender is. You
Mm,
hold on to your personal power, you
yeah.
know, surrender to the teachings. So, I think teachers are very well-meaning, 99.9% are well-meaning, but they don't know that they don't know about their ego. They don't know that they don't know about integrity and how to be brutally honest and take care of their own human shortfalls. There's a lot of um what's the word when you lack of humility. I can't remember what the
Ah,
word.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
lack of humility. There's a lot of that. And it might look like humility when they're on the chair and they're working as a guru, a satguru, a teacher, a leader. But if there's not authentic humility, oh, then we have a hiding place for things that the teacher has not seen about themselves yet. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah. And you've also spoken of association of spiritual integrity's role in offering resources, not rules. But in the face of serious misconduct, where is the line between offering supports and enabling silence? And how do you wrestle with the moral weight of that distinction?
Mm, yeah. So these are great questions. The code of ethics, we ask when somebody finds us and they ask to become a member, we ask them to do their best to commit to upholding this 26 guidelines of how to be in integrity and honest and transparent. And accountability is in there too. So then when a teacher is a member of the ASI, Association for Spiritual Integrity, a student who feels they have been harmed by a teacher who's a member can come to us and say, look, they have broken this guideline and they've broken this guideline, and here is why and here is how. And so what we do then is we have an external team that listens to the student, and if the student gives us permission, we talk to the teacher. Sometimes it goes to mediation, where an external mediator is hired to speak to both the teacher and student and find where understanding can come. And in most cases, there would have been a blind spot for both the teacher and the student. In most cases, they both would have contributed to it. Now, there are a lot of spiritual teachers who won't join the code of ethics, won't join the ASI, because the code of ethics would change their behavior too much, because they're getting away with bad behavior. They don't want to be transparent. They don't want to be accountable. So there are some, really big, really famous people who are like, no, I don't need that. And I've had teachers tell me, no, it's too dualistic. It's too of the world. My vibration is too high. But it's like, they're students. As long as they're in a body, they are of the world too. And students are of the world. So when they teach, it's of the world. But they don't want to respect the laws of the world, like to be respectful, to be accountable, to do no harm, to honor your students at all times and be very honest with them, be honest about your own limitations. Like these kinds of things, some big teachers don't want to do that because they feel they don't need to. Their career is going great. And why would they change their practices? So we're living in a time where the students have given away their power. The teachers are using that power. And maybe here is where the students need to take back their power. That because the teachers won't change there, because they're onto a good thing. They're making a lot of money, even if it's by donation. They're very popular. There is a drug involved there, and we know that their brain changes when everybody around them thinks they're wonderful. Their brain will change, and they get more and more limited around their capacity to grow. So here in these situations, it's about students. It's about students standing up to them and saying, this is not okay. Even when a teacher says, this is your ego. This is your ego. Don't speak to me like this. And it's like, this is your ego, dear teacher. This is your ego. Take responsibility for yourself. Look at yourself. I want to hold up a mirror to you. Now, very often, the student is projecting something onto the teacher, and very often the teacher is projecting something onto the student. So we have a long way to go before we get to a place of where there's wisdom. There's wisdom from the student and objectivity from the student, and a willingness on behalf of the teacher to recognize that they can grow and learn too. How we do that, I don't know.
How much do you think also the spiritual teacher learns when he's teaching to his students?
Yeah, very often. And I know myself, very often, like when you're teaching, you're listening to the teaching sometimes for the first time. You're speaking it, and you've stepped out of the way to such an extent that you're learning from what you're teaching.
Okay.
However, that happens. However, when you're a teacher, you're usually not that dialed into how your humanness is, because your role is to be a clear transmitter of the teachings. And you're usually not very dialed into how's my humanness? Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Am I too tired? Do I need to take a break? Do my students need to take a break? What's going on for them? Like we generally we're not that dialed into that because we haven't learned how to do it. It hasn't been integrated in how we teach because, the priest is on the altar. The guru is up in the high chair. Look at all the things we do to give more power to the teacher. And this is not helpful. It's not helpful at all. But the teacher enjoys that power. It gives them immunity. So the teachers that join the ASI are ones who want to do better. The ones who are already, too close to the divine and not close enough to their own humanness. There's a lot of that. And they're scared of it. And a lot of them are, like there's one very well-known teacher, and he is scared of joining because he's not comfortable being vulnerable and open and transparent. He's not comfortable leaving beside the teacher role and being a normal human. He's not comfortable. And I said, well, deal with that uncomfortableness. That's where you can grow. That's where you learn. Why are you not comfortable being totally human? That's what's growing inside you. That's what wants to be comfortable, so that you're fully human and fully divine. And he's too scared. That teacher is too scared right now. So, yeah, a lot of teachers don't feel safe being open and dropping the role of teacher. They don't feel safe.
And what's some spiritual teachers that you admire?
I think I'm not comfortable naming names because like a teacher I might admire right now might be doing something, unethical that I don't know about yet. So,
okay.
I just think we're all a work in progress. We will always all be a work in progress. And if somebody is listening to this right now and they believe that their teacher is completely perfect in every way, then the student is projecting a parent model onto them, because as children we need to believe that our parents are perfect, and very often we carry that through to project it onto a spiritual teacher, that we need them to be perfect, but they're not. Just as you might know that your parents were not perfect, your spiritual teachers, no matter who they are, whether it was Jesus Christ or the Buddha, they were not perfect humans either. Nobody is. It's not possible, because our humanness is part of the ecosystem. It's constantly growing and changing and dying. Like our soul goes in one direction. It goes towards its own recognition and it dissolves. It dissolves into consciousness itself. But our humanness recycles. It's part of the ecosystem, our body-mind mechanism. And so it will always be growing, always. But somehow, and I think it's the abuse of power, the way abuse of power has been set up way back. I'm thinking of the Catholic Church right now, today they elected a new pope,
Yeah.
To go right back to like that as one organization that's like, it's whatever, the church as it is now, I think it's about 1700 years old. But it's very different to what Jesus was talking about, And so the church has very much a hierarchy and a set of rules, and it's about obedience. And you go to heaven if you're rewarded, you go to hell if you don't. That's not what Jesus was talking about. So, like, when we're connecting with a spiritual teacher, are we thinking in terms of man-made hierarchies? Or what do the teachings say about my relationship with the teacher? What are the teachings? The teachings are saying the divine is within you. The teachings are saying your own guru is inside. That's what the teachings are saying. And if you need a teacher to reflect that for a while, fine. But it's only a reflection. Your connection with the divine is inside. It's not outside. But for a while, you might need to see it on the outside to come in, but it's always obscured by a human form. Always. Always.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned religion. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about religion, and yeah, as well as you, I became an atheist, and
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems of religion is that it makes us think that exists a God or that a God is outside. But I
Yes.
think that a God is a mystical and undescribable experience that we have inside.
Yes.
And I think that, yeah, that's probably one of the things that I most dislike about religion, because God is not really a person we should admire. It's an experience, and yeah, it's making me very, very annoyed.
Yes. Religion is about God on the outside. Spirituality is about God on the inside.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I've
Uh-huh.
heard that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we need I have a Ganesha statue outside on my balcony. And you know, sometimes I put my forehead at the feet of Ganesha. Because devotion and love and compassion through my humanness happens. But 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 God is on the inside. It's all God. And it's as much inside as it is in that lump of concrete that I call Ganesha. Like it's all God. But sometimes my humanness needs to bow down to it on the outside. But I know it's on the inside, but I like the reflection on the outside. You
Yeah.
see?
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, looking ahead,
Uh-huh.
what does spiritually integrous future actually look like to you? Is it
Yeah.
like more
Well,
about,
yeah.
yeah, go on.
Um, there's many things that I would like to do, but it's all voluntary. We're not funded at all. We're doing it out of service. So so there's a limit to what we can offer because it's just in our spare time. Um, what I would like to see is opportunities for spiritual leaders to get appropriate support from other spiritual leaders. So having a system whereby a spiritual leader can find friends where they can drop the role of a spiritual leader of their profession and they can be human and a safe place, because many spiritual leaders don't find any place they can speak safely about their own pain, their own what their human life is bringing up for them, how they struggle
Mm.
sometimes. And so offering safe peer support for teachers is our goal this year, to set up those systems. I would like if we could offer training, really good training in facilitation, in trauma work, in how to use power properly for spiritual leaders. I would like for students to be able to come to the ASI and learn how to use their personal power well and not surrender their personal power to their teachers. I would like us to develop courses for students on how to find a spiritual teacher, what to look for, what to stay away from, what are the red flags, how can I be an adult and grow while I am benefiting from the teachings coming through a teacher. There is so much education needed, so much, and I would love to have the time and the resources for us to develop education, education resources.
Yeah, it seems incredible indeed. Yeah, my last question to you is, what's the meaning of life?
It's an opportunity to experience. Like if you think, if you, you know, if you've connected with the sense that everything is connected, like our ecosystem shows us that there is one unit here on the planet. And then in came hierarchy, and we tried to conquer the earth. But of course, we're destroying it because we are part of the ecosystem. We're part of nature. And we will kill the planet unless we respect it and we become part of the ecosystem in our thinking and our behavior. All that to say, that sense of interconnectedness is valid with all things, even with your awareness and your consciousness. There is just one consciousness, and consciousness comes into physical form because that's how it can experience itself as being separate. So the purpose of life, the meaning of life, is you as the singular unit that is everything comes into a human form, a little spark of the divine comes into human form in order to see what it's like to feel separate, to reconnect, to feel separate, to reconnect. And we have to feel separate in order to have experiences. You see, if you're only one, if there's only one, there's nothing to experience. There's nothing that's separate from you. So life is about offering the singular divine energy that is all of us, that is everything. It's about offering it the opportunity to imagine we are separate in order to experience. And the experiences are placed here for us to enjoy. Really for us to enjoy. Even the hard ones. When we're distant enough from them, we can see the blessings and the gems and the growth. In the most awful pain, we can see how it shapes beauty in us. Every experience is valuable, no matter how horrendous. Somewhere it's valuable, but there might be 20 years of suffering by the time we see what it grows us into. You know, our
Wow.
capacity to suffer is very deep. It's very deep. And I think as we evolve as human beings, that hardness, the capacity to experience so deeply, I think it will lift. We don't need to experience so deeply, but we go there because fear is very strong in our culture, all cultures. It's very strong, you know, and you know, it's kind of becoming normal that murders happen all the time, and people use cars to mow down other people, and we don't take care of people with mental health issues in a holistic, loving, kind way. Like we have so much growth to do, so much education to do. And I do believe in maybe if we don't kill the planet, maybe in 1,000 years' time, I think our capacity to suffer will lessen, and we will orient more towards joy and curiosity. I think that's a very healthy thing.
Yeah, indeed. What an answer, Jack. That's brilliant. Thanks so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to have you. It was fun. And yeah, great luck with your association, and see you soon. Thanks so much again.
Salvador, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.